Okay, so I haven't removed the axles yet, but I want to point out something else I'm doing down here first. Kind of prepping it. I'm going to do the axles, I think, last, but we'll get that on film. But this exhaust pipe here that runs underneath. Okay, there it is, right there. Okay, up there, there's two bolts. Looks like 12 millimeter, but the exhaust screws up into the header pipe that comes up off the top of the motor there. So we've got to take that bolt off, screw that bolt out, and there's another bolt right there. You can see it. Okay. Right. So these bolts. Right. This bolt's right there, and same one on the other. There's only two of them, and we've got to remove that. So that this little header pipe can be removed out of the way. I've already separated the there was a housing that was on the side here that connected between your radiator hoses to the block. It had the thermostat housing in it, basically. Removed that little piece there. It was a couple bolts and these little clips. You squeeze them and slide them back and disconnect the hoses. But I'm going to remove this header pipe out of the way. Also, some of this plumbing here I've got to get out of the way. Like this is the power steering pump here. It's kind of loose right now already. When I did an investigation of the motor days before to find out that this piston here, you can see the hole that's right there. There's the hole right there in the piston, and there's a part of a valve stem. One of the valves is actually stuck right in there. Definitely blew apart. So we're replacing the whole motor, and I won't have to worry about replacing pistons or bearings or anything this time, because the motor's, it's a running motor, as you've seen earlier, that I've got wrapped up underneath here, that I'm going to be able to just drop in and hook up all the hoses and electrical connections and mechanical lines, bolted right in place. I'm going to replace the motor mounts. Like this is one of the motor mounts right here, this one here, okay, where it connects there. This rubber piece here is broken actually on one of them. I think that one down there. Here's the other motor mount, this thing here, okay, that I'm tapping on. And then there's a bracket here, okay, that supports the engine on the top. There's 1, 2, and 3 bolts for that. Those each have, I believe, a couple of bolts each. And then there's a transmission mount on the back side. The transmission here, which is right here, this is a manual 5-speed, so this is the transmission assembly. It bolts to the engine block, okay. And there's another motor mount back here, okay, right here. That's it right there, okay. So we're gonna get to the point where that's all that's left. I'm gonna get rid of all this shit that's in the way. Take off what's left of the throttle by the exhaust back here. The exhaust, this goes, yeah, that's the exhaust header. This is the intake side. So I'm going to get rid of those things there, get them out of the way, so that we can clear some space in this. My experience, since I've done this more or less twice already, this will be the third time. You've got to remove the motor mounts. Maybe not to take the engine out. You can just unbolt it, take the bolt out that secures it to the that secures the engine and transmission to the motor mount. But and you might be able to get it out, but when it comes time to putting it in, it's a pain in the ass. So it's better just to take the motor mounts out. You'll have plenty of room and space to lower your engine in the bay, and then start hooking up those motor mounts and transmission mount to secure that whole thing in place. And once you got that in place, the rest is pretty straightforward and easy. The hardest part on this project is going to be the wiring harness. Apparently, wiring harness that goes back in there. This here, they're saying it's different. I think mine's in the car, so I believe this whole harness here. I don't think there's anything else. All these I'll just lay back, and I'll just have to strip. There's still, they cut it like right there, and it's still connected to the other engine. I believe I'll have to disconnect all that wiring harness, but that's no big deal. You know, there's plugs and that. Everything should plug in place. It should be okay. We'll see when that time comes. So that's what I'm going to do now. Like I said, I'm going to clear some space, get rid of this whole assembly, take the intake off. There's some kind of spacer, header spacer. Actually looks like already got it removed, I believe. Yeah, there's another piece that goes in between there. It must be in the trunk somewhere. I've got parts in my trunk of this car. And I'm going to leave the alternator and all this other stuff with the belt down there. That's all going to stay on. We're going to pull that whole thing, transmission and engine block together. Alright. Of course, I'll get the battery out of the way as well. And these pieces, I'll pull this piece, disconnect that one bolt, clear the space. And you want as much room as possible. So whatever's easy to take off, just get it out of your way. I mean, it doesn't take that much to put it back on. And it'll save you a lot of frustration. Because I think the first time I was trying to lower it, I must have wasted an hour and a half trying to get in until finally a co-worker of mine says, hey, you know, why don't you remove the engine mount? You're probably gonna have to remove that engine mount. And you know, I hadn't really even thinking about that. So you know, I was trying to wedge it in and having a hard time raising it, lowering it, and all this. And like, man, just take it out. And sure enough, made it a lot easier. So anyways, appreciate you listening. Stay tuned. I'll have several videos, you know, recording progress as we go here.